Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the In Productions podcast. This is episode number 18. Before the show starts, this episode is sponsored by Hannah's Sweet Cakes and Coffee. Located in the Central Plaza of Marshall next to Star Market, Hannah's Sweet Cakes is your go-to spot for fresh, delicious pastries, specialty coffee, and wholesome treats. They bake all their pastries in-house daily, ensuring everything is fresh and made with less sugar so you don't indulge guilt-free. Their menu includes handcrafted pastries like croissants, sandwiches, and desserts like tirasamis and cupcakes, as well as refreshing drinks like boba, tea, and specialty coffee made from carefully selected and roasted beans. They were kind enough to send me a box of treats, and they also have a little AM Productions poster in their shop. So make sure you go check them out, and thank you for sponsoring today's show. Before we dive into today's show, we wanted to give everyone a quick heads up that our system experienced a technical glitch. So unfortunately, we don't have the video for today's episode, but don't worry, we've got the full audio for you, and it's a fantastic episode you won't want to miss. The video will be back for the next episode, so everything will be back to normal next show. Thank you for your understanding, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Today's guest has an incredible journey in the world of sports media, earning recognition as a two-time Emmy Award-winner for his work as a host, anchor, and sideline reporter for one of the most storied franchises in baseball, the Boston Red Sox. He's worked his way up through the industry, covering countless iconic moments and building a reputation for his insightful reporting, journaling, and engaging presence. He is also working for NESN right now, and in today's episode, we'll dive into his career, what goes into his day-to-day responsibilities, and some of the unforgettable moments he's experienced on the job. Today's guest, Jahmai Webster.
Hit the beach and ride the wave, buy a plane and fly away. Let me know if you're here to stay. Baby, this could be every day, so say it twice so you have to know. Windows down, let the wind blow. Take a ride to the beach coast. Too many places we can go now. 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 Hey.
So, what do you do and what's your background?
So I'm the Red Sox Sideline reporter, and you have to excuse my voice, man. I got like some congestion or something that's been killing me, and it just like so it sounds a little funny, but so I might be clearing my throat a lot or drinking water or something. But there's the first one. But yeah, so I'm the Red Sox Sideline reporter, and I travel with the team on the road and at home, and I cover the team inside. Kind of the clubhouse, and try to bring you some insightful conversations and really utilize the relationships that I built to bring some cool stories to the air. And whether that's during the broadcast or on the pre and post game show, and it really starts before the season begins and really gets going in spring training. So that's what essentially I do. So I report, write, and host even at times different things as it relates to the Red Sox and the NESN telecast. So that's essentially my job title, and I also do some podcasting too for the network. But I was brought in as a host and reporter initially back in October 2016. And that role has since evolved into what it is now, basically ever since 2020, following the 2020 season. After my predecessor left, they offered me the role full-time. So I've been doing it full-time since 2020, but have been with the network since October 2016. So in year 8, going on 9, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. So do you kind of stay out of the studio now? You're more just on the field, or do you still like go back to the studio and do shows?
Yeah, primarily my job keeps me in the field. Hardly ever at NESN anymore or doing studio shows. If anything, we'll do podcasts virtually. And some of the studio shows that we do would be during spring training. So those would also be offsite. Once we got rid of news, our news programs, which was, NESN Sports Today, NESN Sports Update, which was our morning show, and then we had NESN After Hours, which was like our 10 o'clock show.
Yeah.
The most recent iteration, I guess, of the news. Once those were ended, we didn't have many anchors anymore, so we didn't do that. They shifted to sports betting, which lasted for about a year and a half or so. They've now shifted away from that, and now podcast is a new jam. So
Yeah.
we're loading up, our resources on that, and that can be done anywhere. So, um, not much studio things as far as with Nesson right now, but things could change
Yeah.
and things could always shift. But right now, yeah, just keeping myself
Hmm.
in the field, and I actually enjoy that. It's great to be out there and with the people and have my feet on grass.
Yeah. So how do you get ready to take the field?
So, I mean, it's the preparation really starts prior to going to the field.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm reading the morning's clips, seeing what research is out there, checking notes that the Red Sox have sent out from the previous day or, that particular morning, and just trying to get a wealth of knowledge as I go into the day because that leads me to going into the clubhouse in the afternoon about 4 hours, 4.5 hours before first pitch anyway. So at that particular time, I'll grab my interviews, have conversations with players, coaches, what have you. The manager has media availability later in the afternoon. And at that time, you like to go into it with a storyline or like some angles that you may want to work and different things that you want to bring to the broadcast. So that's kind of where it begins. And then it goes into those conversations. And once those are had, then I'm like, all right, well, what's the best stuff? Then I
Yeah.
present it to the producer or tell her I got these four things or these three ideas, and then we try to bring it to the air. But that's well before we're actually on the air at 7 o'clock.
Yeah. So take us through your journey into broadcasting. Like, what initially sparked you to like in this field?
Yeah, so I mean, I was one of the lucky ones, man. I kind of knew from a early age that this is something that I wanted to do, not necessarily baseball reporting, but just being a television anchor or reporter on television. Um, After I had this school project in the third grade, and I've told this story a lot, we did a newspaper where we had to do it, put together a newspaper as a class, like, front page stories, sports, weather,
Yeah.
what have you. And I was responsible for the comic section, ironically enough. So I had to create a character and come up with a story um, to add to this piece. So I created this character and I just got enamored with the storytelling and like that part of it and creating something and telling a story about something that people were, interested in picking up and reading or knowing about. So at that particular time, and that was with the newspapers, I was like, this would be kind of a cool job.
Hmm.
Then I was, playing sports growing up and I had hoop dreams, wanted to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And then when I was like realizing that maybe that is not going to happen, I was focused on school. So in high school, actually, while playing basketball on the basketball team, I was also writing for the school newspaper. So I was like breaking stories and doing the journalistic thing and had great teachers who pushed me and said, "Hey, you might be able to make this into something." But I was like, I don't really want to do print. Like TV has always been my thing. Like,
Yeah.
whether I wanted to be like a childhood actor or, an anchor, it was just like something that I was always drawn to. So at that time, once I got graduated from high school, got to college, I declared my major right away at California State University at Northridge, broadcast journalism, and the rest is history.
Hmm. Yeah. So did you go into the news field or did you immediately just go into like the sports world?
Well, I was lucky enough, I was blessed enough to just only have done sports in my career.
Hmm.
Though my background is news because my college didn't have a sports program per se. Everybody's um, ground and foundation for journalism is with an emphasis on doing news. I mean, it all branches off from that. It just depends on what's the emphasis. So I do sports news,
Hmm.
but the basis is doing news and being able to tell the who, what, when, where, why, how, um, and being able to bring that story to life. So all I did was news stories. Didn't have any sports experience really at school. Like we had a newscast that we did once a week where I hosted and I anchored sports, but my sports experience came from doing an internship at the local CBS affiliate in Los Angeles, where I'm from,
Hmm.
and that's where things really opened up for me, and I was able to see it from this side, and I was like, yeah, this is great. This is what I want to do, and And after that, the first job that I got was in sports, and it's been in sports ever since. I've never looked back.
So you've won an Emmy Award, which is a huge accomplishment.
Two, actually.
Two?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. So can you walk us through the moment you found out you won and what it means to you
Well,
personally
yeah.
and professionally?
Interesting enough, I wasn't there for the first one. Actually, I
Oh.
wasn't there for the second one. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. I was there for the first one. I wasn't there for the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, I went to the ceremony and everything, and we had been nominated for the kids uh program that I hosted for I think 3 years, three years, maybe 4, 3 years for sure. Nesson Clubhouse. So
Oh, yeah.
Nesson Clubhouse is this informative thing, and basically, bringing sports fans and kids specifically the knowledge of the game from that perspective and teaching it to them, in an animated way or, a way that they can easily grasp. So I
Mm-hmm.
was really proud of this because of the work that we did and because I was the host.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had my stamp on it, obviously. I felt really proud of the work that we did and we got nominated for the Emmy, which was an accomplishment in and of itself because I had never been nominated for one before, and I had come short to that point in my career every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And to get to that threshold was an accomplishment and was amazing, but to win it was surreal, man. And it was a group effort. Obviously, a bunch of us were listed on there, but when they announced that we had won, I think I floated up to the stage, and we all there's about 3 of us who had something to say, and I just thank God, thank my family, and thank my education, and for to be able to finally appreciate that moment was pretty incredible. So that was at that particular time was a defining moment in my career because it just showed that the hard work paid off, and if you keep plugging away, things will work itself out for you.
Yeah. So, what are you doing like during or like during games? Are you like running around taking notes? Like, are you like because I've seen like you on the Green Monster before, but then you
Yeah.
also have to get the game interview after with the player, you know? So it's like,
Yeah, no, during games, man, I'm all over the place a
uh-huh.
lot of times, but mostly I'm sitting right next to the dugout. If it's at
Oh, really?
Fenway, I'm right there on the right side of the dugout, and because I got to be the eyes and ears to the guys upstairs about things that are happening that they might not have a great angle on. So
So are you telling them in their ears? Like,
sometimes, yes, with
yeah.
injuries or situations that happen, if it was a bang bang play
Uh-huh.
or there was a something that was being challenged that they didn't necessarily see, and I got a good position because I'm right at the first baseline. So
Yeah.
anything that happens there, I see it at home games. So a lot of times I'm just hanging out in the camera well with the photographers, and we've gotten quite cozy over the years.
Yeah. So after games, do you have to like run out and chase the player that you want to interview?
Yes. So a lot of times I do. With an assist from PR, I can't take all the credit, but I give them a heads up of who I want, and they grab them for me, and then we do the interview, and so I have an idea about who I want usually, but sometimes a guy will tell me no, which has happened several times.
Really?
Specifically this year, where I think I went maybe 2 for 12 with Rafael Devers' interview request this season. But I did get him a couple times.
Yeah.
But a lot of times he's just, that's been his personality as of late. He's
Mm,
just, doesn't want to be the center of attention. And,
yeah.
these guys are really particular, so anything could make them feel like they don't want to do something. But usually I have an idea of who I'm going to talk to going into those.
Yeah. And then have you ever got Gatorade poured on you?
Oh my gosh. When have I not? Is more of a question. It's like, yeah, a whole bunch. A lot of times that's happened and usually happens after a walk off or like an
Yeah.
incredible performance. Like a couple years ago, Nick Pavetta threw a complete game. There was a Gatorade shower. Tanner Houck had the same situation. He threw a Maddox, a complete game as well. And those are usually the situations. But it could be, a guy has a 3 homer game. Maybe they get my spec, but it has to be, or usually the criteria is being, something pretty epic happening on the field. And
Yeah.
that's how they kind of celebrate it.
hmm Yeah, and then when you're doing like when you're talking about the players, I saw in another interview you were talking about how you can be talking about a pitcher, but someone just hit a home run. You don't want to switch your subjects because you want to stay relevant.
Yeah.
How do you like balance that, and how do you like come up with stuff on the spot?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I just try to shut up in those moments and kind of let them happen, but it does get that happens to me more often than I would like.
Hmm.
But in there maybe I try to tie in the story. It just happens on the fly, honestly. It's just like having a conversation and changing subjects and then bringing it back to what you intended for that particular idea or thing
Yeah.
to be. So um it's just, an ad lib at times, but if it's our guys that hit home runs, then I'll just be quiet and let OB
Yeah.
make the call, or Mike Monaco make the call, and then I'll continue with my story.
Hmm. Yeah. And then you have a front row seat basically at every game. Like, what's the most memorable like interview or like thing you've seen like in a game?
One of my most memorable interviews,
Hmm.
it's got to be Alex Verdugo hit a walk-off home run down the pesky pole. And I asked him, what were you thinking in that moment? And on live television, he drops an F bomb. He goes, "Please be effing fair." And I was like, he's like, "Wait, are we live?" I was like, "Yeah, we're live, Alex." And he's like, "Oh, sorry." And then he repeated it again. So it was one of those that a lot of Red Sox fans still come up to me and talk about.
Yeah.
So it's pretty epic, but that was probably one of my most memorable interviews
Hmm.
because of the magnitude of what had just happened, and then just the sheer raw emotion that was coming from it as well. Um, that would probably take the cake. That right there.
Yeah. What's so what's the like how do you prepare to go live? Do you have to like kind of like realize like in the moment, or do you kind of have to just like go off the spot if something just happened, like like if you're running out to a player?
Yeah, well, if I'm running out to a player to do an interview after like a walk off per se,
Hmm.
then I try to like during the at bat, I try to think about, okay, if this guy's going to be the hero, what would I want to ask him?
Yeah.
A lot of times I don't have that time to prepare, but usually there's things that happen during the game that kind of stand out. So I have those maybe one or two topics, and then the rest of it is just kind of flowing into the conversation.
Hmm.
Um, but during a live report, I usually know what that idea is going to be because I go into it telling the producer about whatever things that I'm thinking about on that particular day, whatever stories I want to tell.
Hmm.
So in doing that, I may write down three ideas or three topics like, okay, talk to Rafael Devers
Yeah.
about his plate approach. He told me that I am, I shifted my hands to be a little bit lower so I can get to the ball faster. So I'll write something out like that.
Hmm.
And then I'll just work off of that. And I'll say,
Yeah.
hey guys, I talked to Rafael Devers earlier today, and he's been hitting 300 over the last 2 weeks with a pair of home runs. And he told me that he made a quick adjustment. And it's basically from the fact that he dropped his hands and he's able to get to the ball quicker. And
Yeah.
something that we've seen play out. And then I'll kind of try to tie in the statistical element to that. And that'll be just quick button up 20 to 30-second report that I do in game. And then I get it back to them. A lot of times they continue the conversation. So if it's one of those and I got something more, which I usually do because I talk to a player for like 5 to 7 minutes, 3 to 7 minutes, let's say.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what I tell you in 20 seconds is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So times where I'm able to get more information out is really great, and chime into conversation and be kind of that third voice is really great. But that happens usually in that way. And it's just me trying to not write down verbatim all the time, but just a few ideas, because then I just let it flow and it's more conversational
Hmm.
because that's what it is. The words are coming off the top of my head. I'm
Hmm.
always, it's not always so perfect, but I think it's the most relatable thing, when you have a conversation with somebody and you're talking to them.
Hmm. Yeah. And then is there any like anyone you haven't interviewed yet that you want to?
In baseball or in life?
Both. Both. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a few presidents I'd love to have
Oh
10
yeah.
minutes with, obviously. You know, I think it'd be cool to sit down with historical figures in history who've done great things.
Yeah.
I would have loved to interview Muhammad Ali when he was alive.
Yeah.
Allen Iverson was one of my favorite athletes after
Yeah.
Michael Jordan when he retired. So I would love to get 5 minutes with him to just, tell him what he meant to me and be an
Yeah.
athlete. I'd love to interview Michael Jordan. I'd love to spend time with him. Never met him, never,
Hmm.
had a conversation with him before. Um, Geez, man, that's a good one. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, yeah, I've interviewed some pretty good people, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I know.
I mean, those would be some of the ones that come to mind.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean, even on here it says Alex Cora, Mookie Betts, Sander Bogarts, even Bill Belichick you've interviewed. It's
yeah, I
yeah.
have. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, those are some pretty big names, but yeah, there's a lot more out there, a lot more interesting people. I think that's the most at its core, that's the most enjoyable part of what I do. And I love telling stories and I love to have conversations with people that get them to um, give folks insight into who they are, what makes them tick, especially professional athletes, because it's a limited number of people. It's an even more limited number of major leaguers who actually make it to the big leagues. You can fit every single major leaguer over the course of baseball's 100-plus year history inside of Fenway Park and still have space to fit a lot more. That's how many people have played Major League Baseball. It's more of a likelihood that you become an astronaut than to be a Major League Baseball player.
Mm.
So um, I really enjoy the process about what's made these guys major leaguers and how they became professional athletes. I think that's very interesting and insightful because everybody doesn't make it.
Are you friends with any of the players or like even the celebrities that come to the games and stuff? Like, is there any or like Jahmai, like what's up? Like they like
I
know you?
mean, I mean, there's a lot of that, not friendship, but we're friendly. We have a professional relationship,
Yeah.
with a lot of the guys. So, I mean, I'm with them more than I am my own family, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Like, because we're together over the course of a 6+ month season, so you get to know a lot of people,
Hmm.
do a lot of activities. I mean, I played pickleball. I think it's well documented a lot where I got injured with the coaching staff this year. So you do sometimes activities outside of the game, which is an opportunity for you to get to know the guys a little bit more. Um,
Hmm.
so you kind of build a relationship and a mutual respect over that. So I think naturally there's uh, something like a friendship that's building, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm calling them every day and being like, hey, what's up? You want to go do this type of thing?
Yeah.
No, that's not the
Hmm.
case. But I mean, relationships form over the years. A lot, some guys you're closer with than others. I mean, when Justin Turner was on the team. Like I was the commissioner of his fantasy football team, so we bonded over that,
Hmm.
and so had conversations about that type of stuff, and things outside of baseball, and
Yeah.
Trevor's story with his shoes, he's big into that, and
Mm.
different things that kind of that make these guys human beings as well as you and me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then outside of the broadcasting world, like what's some of your personal interests or hobbies that help you unwind?
I mean, sports is awesome. I love sports.
Yeah.
I love all sports really, and like that's the cool part about what I do is because like if I wasn't getting paid to do this, I'd still be like locked in on it anyways. It's
Yeah.
just awesome that it's my profession, which is pretty incredible. But I love, I lived in Hawaii for a period of time, so I like to go surfing. I like to be outside in the water,
Mm.
in nature, fishing. My dad's a big fisherman. I love hanging out with family and friends and just spending time with loved ones. It's incredible. I love to travel. Those are kind of the things that I enjoy, man. Different experiences, and paying for those. Like the way I want to spend my money is by creating memories. So,
Hmm.
travel is a part of that. Um, and I hope to do more.
Hmm. Yeah. And then do you engage with fans during the game or do you kind of like is it off and on?
Yeah, no, I mean, we talk all the time, but I was just telling someone else, like recently, I upgraded to um I have these things in my ear. It's called an IFB in the industry, but it's just an earpiece, right?
Yeah.
That you're hearing people talk to you and you hear the broadcast. I used to have just one, but because I'm like ADD,
Yeah.
not I just like
Yeah.
get my focus shifts so easily. So
Hmm.
I decided to put both of them in my ear, which
Oh,
locks in my focus. So I can't really hear people when they're talking to me. They probably think I'm stuck up or whatever, but
yeah.
I'm just like I literally can't hear them unless I take one of those things out of my ear.
Hmm.
But I try to talk to people, and people talk to me like if I lock eyes with somebody and we have a conversation. Yeah, a lot of times we do. There's a
Hmm.
lot of interesting people who come to ballparks and people who have interesting stories. So I try to be engaged with the fans and talk to them when I can, for sure. But I also have a job to do. Like I'm not there to watch a game, which I think
Yeah.
people forget sometimes. So
Yeah.
like there's a million things happening right now, and if it was happening in real life, and like I'm having a conversation with somebody over here, and like the actual things that were going on, it'd be like 10 people over this way
Yeah.
if we can illustrate it.
Yeah. And then who is talking to you in your piece? Is it just your directors, producers?
Director, the producer, the person who's doing graphics.
Oh,
There's
geez.
about 5 people in the TV truck who probably have access to me directly,
Hmm.
maybe even more than that. But obviously, and then I'm hearing from the play-by-play guy and the analyst. So
Yeah.
it's a lot going on at one time and a lot of chaos, especially if it's like a walk-off situation and like we're talking through it as things are developing and I need to interview somebody quickly.
Yeah.
Those are the most chaotic, but those are kind of the moments that you live for that get your blood going.
Hmm. Yeah. And then what advice would you give to like young, like aspiring people that want to do like you in your footsteps?
I'd say do anything. Do anything that you can to get close to what you want to do in the industry and
Hmm.
learn all the jobs and then talk to people. Like it's a relationship business. That's the most important thing. And having conversations and knowing people and having them know your name is great. And um don't be afraid to like speak to people about stuff, not only when you need something, but just like when you're just checking up.
Hmm.
Um I think that's important. But, you know, if you see something that you want to do, you kind of try to position yourself to go for that particular thing. Try not to get too far off the path because sometimes it can be a long road back to where you want to go. So if you want to report, go get a job that's reporting. If you want to do weather, go get a job that's doing that. If you want to do sports, same thing.
Hmm.
That's my advice.
Yeah. And then what even when you run out onto the field, is there anything like it's so high stake, like it's live, like everybody knows it's happening. You can't like you have one shot. Is there like do you know you have one shot? Do you not even go that far into thinking that? Like how do you even like do that?
Yeah, I do know I have one shot because yeah,
Yeah.
live there's no takebacks when you're doing something live.
Yeah.
So I know you have one opportunity to nail this. If you don't, you got to keep going though.
Mm,
You cannot stop and be like, "Oh, let me try that again." No, there's
yeah.
no opportunities. I think if you try to make it bigger than it is, then you can get caught up in the moment. But if you continue to like keep things into perspective and know that not only if you mess up here, but it's not going to be the end of the world, but also like you'll get another opportunity to do it again, and that time you can nail it. So I
Yeah.
try to keep that mindset. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's a lot of pressure coming with it live, but that's kind of the part that attracts you to live television because it's really no other rush um outside of that.
Yeah. And I just want to, is there anything else you want to say? I mean, do you want to share all your social medias, anything, or where people can find you?
Yeah, yeah, no. On Instagram at Webster on TV, on Twitter at Webster on TV or X, whatever they're calling it these days. I'm gonna try to lock into Blue Sky. Now that's a
Mm.
recent new one. TikTok too.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
on there at Jahmai W, but I'm not really active yet. I haven't really figured it out. It seems too intricate, so maybe I can get somebody to show me. But yeah, you can keep up with me on there, and hopefully this is a fun off season, and the winter stove's gonna heat up here shortly,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
we go into next year with high hopes.
Hmm. Yeah. And that will do it for today's episode. Thank you, Jemai, for coming on to the show. And we'll see you guys next time.
Sounds good, Aiden.
Sorry.